My name is Brandon, and over the past year, the Delight Cafe team and I have traveled across the U.S. researching this rapidly growing industry of CBD products. What we have found throughout the industry were products that were inconsistent in dosage and used ingredients that weren't even lab tested. Products with chalky textures, bitter aftertaste, and worst of all, confusion among the CBD consumers. That's why we created Delight Cafe. A 15 milligram, lab-tested, all-natural, water-soluble hemp CBD powder pack. It's odorless, colorless, and tasteless. Add it to your favorite drink of choice, wherever, whenever, on the go. Quickly find your calm, your balance, and your delight when you need it most. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brandon Croucher, CEO of Delight Cafe. I'm honored that you choose to spend this evening with us. This is The H, an honest conversation about health, hemp, and happiness. Tonight, I've already been laughing and having a wonderful time backstage with Miss Catherine Ewing. I keep wanting to emphasize the E. Ewing. And she is got me laughing. We have connections that we both know already. It was one of the greatest things. I'm so excited to have her on. She has an LCSW, MDiv. I'm going to have to ask her what that is because I'm not sure. But she's a women's transformation mentor. She's a TEDx speaker. She's an EFT practitioner and an expert in trauma. She blends science, psychology, metaphysics, and spirituality to help her clients not only heal, awaken, but also transform. It is an honor to have her here today. So if you've ever felt like you are crazy, guess what? You're not. You ever felt like you are not your story? Guess what? She can help you. You did not create the situations or circumstances in your life. Everything happens for a reason, and you can heal the wounded parts of yourself. So please do me an absolute huge favor of welcoming Miss Catherine Ewing with me. Hello, Kathy.
Hi, Brandon. Nice job.
I wanted you to be proud of that earlier.
I
missed you guys this morning. As you can see, I'm not in my office. I didn't do my morning show. I'm actually visiting my niece for Halloween. She's 10 this year. And this is probably the last year that she's going to be able to trick or treat, to go out and do it with family, because next year we all know kids are going to want to end up being with their friends. So I came down and we're matching Dracula costumes, and I'm a wrestler at one point for a party one night apparently, but I flew down to Texas to be able to spend this time with my niece and get a wonderful time in with the holiday. So thank you guys for being here and understanding this morning. I just want to say hi to everybody really quick. Now let's dive in. So right off the bat, your last name is a very popular last name. It comes from a TV show. Which character was your favorite, and what is your favorite part of the show Dallas?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I never really watched it much. Even though I'm of the generation where that was like really the show to watch. I took sort of a hiatus from TV for a long period of my life because the vibration of it was just not resonating with me anymore. But I do have a funny story that I shared with you a little bit. So one of the characters in the show, a main character, is J.R. Ewing.
Yes.
And I actually have two nephews, biological brothers, who my brother and sister-in-law adopted. And at birth, their birth mom named them both Jesse. Apparently, she had several sons who she named Jesse, and sadly, they were removed from her care because she wasn't able to care for them. And my brother and sister-in-law adopted both of the boys. They were about a year apart, but they had to change the second one's name so that the two boys.
I was going to say, that's tough.
Ryan and then Jason Ryan Ewing. So I have two nephews named J.R. Ewing.
Are you related to Patrick Ewing?
I'm sorry?
Are you related to Patrick Ewing, the basketball player?
I don't know. I think we're all one big family. So at some point we are all related. And actually, in my family history, there was a book written about the genealogy on my dad's side, and Ewing, it actually comes from Mech Ewan, the Scottish Mcewen. I don't know where the other Ewings come from, but that's where my ancestry on my dad's side was.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. So you actually are a very fascinating individual. You've done a TEDx talk, and even though you and I had some fun behind the scenes, I can't get into what you and I got into yet, because that's going to be a big thing. But like, I wanted to ask you about your TEDx talk. Emotional, I'm going to say this word wrong, and I've practiced 3 times. Alchemy. Alchemy. Can you explain to me what made you choose this conversation? Because that's a very unique conversation.
Yeah.
And how can people use this to benefit? Don't worry, I even got it behind the scenes for everybody to get it.
Cool. So first of all, the name of my website, I don't really go by my business name, but my business name technically is Sacred Heart Alchemy. And that came to me in a very powerful way during a 3-day-long shamanic journey. And there was a whole vision thing, Yeshua, Mother Mary, doves, flying through space and time. So
I love it.
We don't have time for all of that. But
it doesn't matter. I'm in. You and I are going to go on a journey together. I love it.
So you probably know that the word alchemy is about transformation. I mean, the way we typically understand it, it's from, the ancient scientists who tried to turn lead into gold, right? So it's transforming something of a heavier, denser energy into a higher vibrating energy. So that's the basic, it's a transmutation process.
Yeah.
So when I work with clients, and I mean, experiencing this in my own life and whatever, for me, it's working through the unconditional love, the chamber of the heart, to bring awareness and understanding and acceptance and love to ourselves, and especially the younger parts of ourselves and other life, if we believe in past lives, then that have been wounded, have to some degree or other. But when we have these unhealed wounds, it prevents us from stepping fully into our highest expression of ourselves, right? Our sovereignty, our divine spiritual beingness, when we're held back by the density and the belief systems and the programming of, being in this earth realm. So when I work with clients, I like to call it spiritual alchemy. We sort of take this journey and very gently and with a lot of sacred intention, sort of dig up, uncover, brush off, the old broken pieces, and look at the story around them and do healing work. And then I like to say, bring them back together in a new mosaic or a new beautiful representation of the truth of who they are.
So I have to ask, I am someone who looks at all these things, and I'm very much the same online with you on how you have to build your best and you have to go through things. But in your website, you talk about traumas in that. Does a person have to go through a trauma to truly know their destiny in a sense?
Oh, no, I don't think it's a prerequisite.
Okay, I wasn't trying to make it sound weird like that.
No. But I guess my point is more, I believe that every soul chooses a path in this lifetime. I was having some family conversation today about my brother, who his birthday was yesterday. He passed away 7 years ago now. And his soul chose a really difficult journey in this lifetime with mental illness and addiction, homelessness. He picked, he chose a difficult path. And, so I believe that souls choose the petri dish, if you will, that will allow them the most fertile environment in which to grow into their highest expression of themselves. But maybe that means they have to learn self-love or forgiveness or humility or, any of the beautiful different faith, honesty, right? Values.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes the journey on that path is really difficult. So and I'm very careful about this. I don't say to a client, well, you were sexually abused so that you could become a blah, blah, blah. I'm a little, but I do help people understand that when they can heal, there's growth and beautiful lessons to be learned that they may then choose to then use on their own path to be in service to others.
I like how you say that. Self-acceptance, though. That's a big thing for a lot of people that I don't think a lot of people have. They don't accept themselves for who they are, but they think they do. How do you know you're on the right path with self-acceptance?
I think your voice in your head tells you a lot about self-acceptance. If you're hearing things like, I'm such an idiot, I can't get anything right, nobody's going to like me unless I'm 20 pounds lighter, or, we sort of create this false self. If we're constantly people pleasing, I need to do this for them, so they're going to, that ego voice in your head is very different than the voice of your soul that says, you're beautiful exactly the way you are. And you don't have to change yourself for anyone's approval or affection or attention. But, there's so much wounding in our lives. Our parents were wounded, our grandparents were wounded, and we live in this patriarchal system that has all these rules. And, for men as well as for women, but you have to look a certain way and you have to be flirty, but not too flirty, because then you're a whore. And the only options you have are virgin or whore. There's like no sort of healthy in between. I think there are just so many dysfunctional messages that we try to squeeze ourselves into. So the less we are driven by those voices, and the more we're guided by the sort of, I'm sure you've heard the word, Brandon, the still small voice in our mind that says, you're perfect just the way you are. You're loved, you're worthy, you're deserving, right?
Yeah.
All of those beautiful, affirmative, unconditionally loving words and statements and affirmations. Yeah.
So this was not one of my questions. I had to write this for this. The ego voice to the heart voice. How do you know you don't mix those up? Like I say that as someone who wants to be able to learn from that. And I thought that was a great analogy. I've never heard somebody say that like that. So how can I know I'm listening to the right one and not the one that's going to lead me down the wrong path?
Well, again, I think the simplest way is, what are the words you're hearing? If they're critical, judgmental, dismissive, mean-spirited, and they make you feel bad about yourself, they create anxiety, they make you feel less than or, unworthy, that's not the voice of your soul. That's not your authentic spiritual self, right? Those messages will always be loving and accepting, uplifting, supportive. And it'll feel different in your body. The tricky part is, I think so many of us learn to dissociate or disconnect from our bodies, our physical bodies, maybe because of things that have happened to us, or because there's been a lot of anxiety and getting out of our body, sort of getting up, lost in our head somewhere. We don't know. It's a great question that you've asked, because you got to quiet down and you've got to slow down to hear that more authentic, loving voice. The other one is like, wah, 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 wah.
Yes. When you think about that, I think you hit the nail on the head on that. The one gives you positive, the other one gives you negatives. And we don't, as a male, because I can only come at it from that perspective. Mm-hmm. And as a male, that slowing down is sometimes that other voice triggers things in us that is like anger and anxieties that we don't mean to have there. And we're listening to the wrong voices because you got to be the toughest, you got to be the strongest, you got to be the everything else. But for women, it's that voice is all, I feel like that's the mother's voice inside us. Like my mom coming to me and being like, good job, Brandon. I'm proud of you for doing that. Yes. And it's one of those where the ego to the heart, you got to know which one you're listening to. Yeah. And your way of saying that was great. I love it. Like
you made a great distinction, about, or a great point about the messages that men also get. Because again, as a woman who's worked in domestic violence and sexual assault and child abuse and rape crisis work, and believe me, I was a women's studies person back in the 70s. So I've been on this path around women and women's empowerment and feminism for a very long time. But men are also conditioned and limited by the rules of the patriarchy, right? You got to be strong, you got to be tough, you can't show your emotions, you got to keep moving forward even if you have stepped on your best friend's head to get there, like, right? And it's all about money and status and power over. Mm-hmm. To me, that's an egoic masculine, not a divine masculine. A divine masculine is a loving father who holds space and structure and support and has your back. Very, very different energies. But both, whether you're in a male body or a female body, or you identify as not, non-binary, we're all impacted by the patriarchy and the expectations that we look, be, do a certain way. Yeah. And I think it is probably more difficult for men, but equally difficult for women, because we tend to be, by the way our brains are organized and created, multitaskers, and we're sort of responsible for a lot of things, right? And if you think about the biologically, if you think about the brain, men's brains were made to be more single focused. Go kill the animal, bring it back for food.
Yep. 100%.
When you're literally on the hunt, everything else falls away. You are totally single focused. Mm-hmm. Whereas the women were back raising the kid, birthing the kids, nursing the kids, making the food, growing the other crops, taking care of the elderly, passing down the stories of the tribe, keeping the records, right? Yes. Women multitask, and their brains are made that way. And they're literally wired differently than men's brains. So I don't know what got me down that thread, but
that's okay. I like it. Go.
Male or female, this patriarchal system of needing to be and do a certain way. Oh, I was talking about being busy in our heads.
Yes.
And not taking time to sit and get quiet, because then we're lazy, we're wasting time, we're not productive, we're not getting shit done, we're not meeting the deadline, we're not getting to the goal. And it's just built into the structure of our culture. Other cultures are different, but our culture, it's go. It's do instead of, let's be.
Yeah.
Let's just be. Because being is where we actually get to tap into higher consciousness and creativity.
Yes. I love that. So on your TED Talk, you even do that. You do that on stage. I was watching it, and you had everybody put their hands on their heart and all that.
Yeah.
And you had everybody just, I did it as you were doing it. And I closed my eyes and I was taking the breaths, 5 in, 5 out. And you could feel the energy inside you change. And I look at the fact that there's so many times in our life that ego mind steps in and it hits us. And it doesn't matter male or female. It's telling us these negative things. But if we take that moment to take a stop and take that breath, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
How do you help clients? Oh, go ahead. You have something.
Well, I was going to say that the power of that, and I'm so glad to hear you did it. Thank you. I did a slightly shortened version of it because, as you'll, find out, you have a certain amount of time
Yes.
to do a TED Talk. And the whole time I was practicing, I was like a few seconds over. So I was so conscious of not going over. So I did make that a little bit shorter, but there's been scientific studies done. That's called the heart-brain coherence exercise. Heart Math Institute, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, a lot of different people use it in different ways. But ultimately, it's a 3-minute exercise that shifts us out of the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, anxiety, into the parasympathetic, which is rest and restore, right? Sort of the calming. But with the bringing in of the higher vibrational words, the gratitude, appreciation, it literally lights up different circuits in our brain. So within 3 minutes, you're not only relaxing yourself in that short period of time, but you're changing your brain chemistry for 6 hours.
Fascinating.
So the cortisol and the adrenaline, the stuff that's typically running in all of us anymore because we're all so stressed out and anxious, we're switching that off and we're switching on the serotonin, the dopamine, the calming, relaxing, and healing chemistry. Yep. So if you do this thing for 3 minutes, you get a 6-hour return on your investment. Not bad, right?
That's huge. That's a huge, because like when you think about it, the average person works 8 hours a day is what we say. So imagine you take 3 minutes in your car before you get to work and you sit there in the parking lot and do that. You're going to get to lunch without having the anxiety of the day start hitting you.
Exactly. And then if you do it again at lunch, it carries you through the rest of the day and into dinner. And then in the evening, before you go to bed, for less than 10 minutes a day, you too.
Yes.
You too can be like, or do this.
I love that. That is your next. Your next TED Talk is for less than 10 minutes a day. You could find happiness. Yeah. I love it. So yeah. I actually see something here that I really would like to jump into, have a conversation on. Is I'm so distracted with who I am. I don't feel my name fits. I know that sounds weird. I'm in the process of trying to figure out who I am. I lost me somewhere. And then I noticed that there were others that said the same thing. And how do you start a conversation with someone when they say they've lost themselves? Obviously, you'd ask more questions, but I mean, the breathing is one thing. What would be some advice we could give to people, you give to people to help them?
What I would be curious about is, was there ever a time when you felt like you knew yourself? And when did that change? So I want to look at a precipitating event or series of events. And they don't have to be huge. Dissociation can happen. Trauma can happen in a moment when we feel unseen or unheard or unsupported. It doesn't, people hear trauma and they think, oh, I must have been sexually abused, or I must have been, in war, or lost my parents in a car accident, like some big T trauma. But little traumas, being shushed, being neglected, being told we're stupid, being embarrassed by a teacher in front of a group of students. And isn't that funny? That happened to me in first grade. And here I am bringing that up as an example, right? It's the little T traumas where we all of a sudden feel shamed or humiliated or uncared for, that can also create a dissociation, a separation. And then we start to change ourselves so that doesn't happen again. So we start to create this false sense of self.
Amazing.
Because the
Yeah.
other piece of it is children always think everything is about them and their fault. So if someone harms them, their belief is that somehow they must have caused that. I must not be lovable. I must not be
Right.
good enough. I must not be pretty enough or smart enough or funny enough or lovable enough or a good enough girl, right? Um, so we start to put on these false layers of ourselves.
Yeah. I, I like how you're phrasing that, because it's totally understanding that maybe it's something. Your website hits it on the nail on the head. You say it's everything happens for a reason, and so learning from that, and that's something that I think a lot of people, we don't remember why we're feeling like that, because it happened in first grade, as you mentioned, and it's seeing that you can step into that next realm. It's building yourself back up.
Yeah. And,
With
it gets suppressed and pushed down. And if you watch the TED Talk, you saw the picture of the iceberg. It
I
gets
did.
pushed way down in the subconscious. That's our brain's way of trying to protect us from the pain or the discomfort of that.
Yeah.
But when that happens enough, it creates these survival responses, right, that then stay with us through our whole lives. Whether we feel safe in the world, how we respond to other people, whether we feel comfortable speaking up or asking for what we need or expressing ourselves, whether we start to do some kind of self-harm, whether it's cutting or burning or overeating or drugs or alcohol or sex, to disconnect from the pain that we feel,
Yeah.
or to make us feel something when we've become so numb, because that's the other thing that happens, especially with like cutting or burning. It's actually a way to feel something. But I'm getting a little off the topic here.
No, I get where you're going with it. I wanted your analogy of the iceberg was one I wanted to tap into. Actually, so you took that right where I was headed. I wanted to actually tap into it for twisting it a little bit with veterans. Dealing with PTSD is almost like a whole nother realm of issues and situations. How could somebody, especially vets, be able to start healing those traumas they've experienced?
Yeah.
To, yeah.
I would highly recommend. So I actually trained to use a technique with veterans with complex PTSD that doesn't require them to talk about the experience,
Mm,
but either because they're not allowed to, or because just speaking it would be too activating and it might actually bring them into a full-blown PTSD response, which, we don't want to do that to anybody, right? If we can help
no.
it. So I would say if someone is interested in working, with a therapist, I wouldn't recommend trying to do this work on your own.
Right.
That you find someone who is trauma informed and who works with the body through either somatic experiencing or this thing that I do called neurokinesis. I also do tapping, EFT, and that is helpful in calming the amygdala, turning down the dial on that fight or flight response in the brain as we process
Yeah.
old experiences that have caused trauma to be held in the body. And we can begin to process that without creating a full-blown, PTSD response.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a great answer. So I'm sharing your website with everybody right now because I want them to be able, if you feel you need to, because a lot of people, especially men, and I say this as a man who has gone to therapy for a long time in my life. And in the last 8 months, I started doing hypnotherapy. And it's been so different.
Yeah.
The other day, I was at breakfast with my mom, and she was complimenting me without knowing I could hear her. She was talking to the waitress, and the waitress went to make fun of me. I have that like personality. Everybody likes to pick on me, and I'm great with that. I love it. But my mom was like, he's been doing this hypnotherapy, and it's been amazing to see the transformation in his life. And so a lot of men don't want to do therapy. They hear it and it's like, that's for the weak. like we talked about, you got to stay
Well,
strong.
right. That's another one of those beliefs. But I will also say, and I don't know, I have this probably somewhere on my website, but I never set out to be a psychotherapist.
Really?
When I was in graduate school for social work, I wanted nothing to do with psychotherapy. I majored in community organizing and women's issues because as I said, I was doing domestic violence, rape crisis work. I was a union organizer. Like I was a social activist and didn't know that much about therapy, but really thought it was for wealthy people who wanted to contemplate their belly buttons. Like, I was young and maybe a little bit naive. But so big surprise for me when 12 years later, that quiet voice in my head, I was on maternity leave with my daughter, and I start hearing in my mind to go into therapy. And I'm like, no way, I'm not doing that. But the voice got a little louder and a little louder. And because I was on a spiritual path and I was following my inner guidance, I said, all right, I'll do it. So I started working in a small psychotherapy practice with someone who I had known previously from my child protective service days. We used to do a lot of trainings together around child sexual abuse for prosecutors and judges and police officers and, people who could it would help them to know some of the emotional and psychological aspects of that. But what happened, Brandon, was because I didn't have a lot of training and I just went in and started doing talk therapy the way I thought people did talk therapy, I found it to not be very useful for myself or for my clients. I really didn't feel as though I was supporting them to dive deeply into the things that they were coming to me for. Yeah. And I had a lot of clients who had trauma. I mean, that's who I attracted because that was my experience and my background. And it was in searching for a way to work with clients that A, was going to allow me to stay in the field because I was ready to quit, and B, to be more helpful and in service to my clients. This is the way that spirit gets us on a path. I feel like this was all orchestrated to get me more focused on my spiritual path and on a path of an energy healer. So for years, I mean, it's continued, that started in my, how old was I? Mid-30s or something. And I'm a little older than that now.
Nope, 29. I'm surprised you're not 29. Let's just leave it there, you know?
I always like that premature gray look, but that's what jump-started my deeper interest in spirituality and metaphysics. And I became trained in 7 or 8 different kinds of energy healing modalities. You asked what MD is. It's a master's in divinity. I went through a 2-year, very alternative master's of divinity program, which was really focused on sort of law of attraction, the reclamation of the divine feminine energy and the rebalancing of the masculine and feminine energy on the planet, and peace, on the prayers of it, focused on all the peace prayers of all the major spiritual traditions, not just religious, but also indigenous. So it looked at the commonality in what everyone wants in this, on this. So I went through many, many years of intense training and studying and doing my own healing work. I went through a divorce after 30 years of marriage, which was my own sort of personal dark night of the soul. Left everything that I knew, my work, my home, my kids, my dogs, my house in the suburbs, opened a healing center and lived in somebody else's basement for 1.5 years at 52 or 53 years old. So, I've gone through my own major transformation, dark night of the soul, trying to figure out how to be a business person, how to live by myself, how to support myself, and how to not lose my mind.
Right. Right.
All of that, and going through menopause at the same time. It's like, am I having a spiritual awakening or just a complete mental breakdown?
Right.
I'm
Right.
really not so sure. But what it did was, because I didn't have clinical training as a psychotherapist, it allowed me to bring all of these different things into my work with clients, finding ways to get below the surface, to dive more deeply. And I had, every possible activation, upload, download, any healing modality, anything you can imagine out there, I've
Yeah.
had it or done it, right?
Right.
So it's been this incredible journey to create my own way of working with clients that is pretty unlike traditional psychotherapy. And I have to tell you, almost to, everyone, my clients say to me, oh my God, I've been in therapy, in and out of therapy my whole life. And this is the only time I really feel like I'm getting anything done. Or I came to you because you were different than, and this is not throwing shade on psychotherapists. You have to remember, we're talking 27 years ago when I went into the field.
Right.
So we didn't know what we knew about the brain and trauma and energy healing and all of that then. And I'm happy to say many of my colleagues in the field of psychotherapy are getting trained in fact, I train people in some of the things that I do in energy healing, in more spiritual approaches, in more metaphysical, ways of looking at things. So, sound healing, essential oils. I mean, we bring it all in,
Yeah.
unless you work in an agency where there's a lot of rules, but I was in private practice.
I like how you did that.
I figured once I close the door, nobody knows what the hell I'm doing in here. So
Right, yeah, boom. Like, I love it. So you have done some pretty cool things, and I want to ask about the fact that your results, as you just explained, you've been able to help people in such a different way. Why are people able to have that difference with you? What, like, it that's pretty much my question. Every other way I'm going to explain what I want you to say as an answer. So it's less, how do you help people where they actually are seeing the difference? Is it just the fact that they're not talking? It's them able to connect inward? Is it?
Yeah. Just going back to that iceberg image,
Right.
The little part of the iceberg that sticks up above the water is only 3 to 5% of what we know. This is what the mind knows that the mind knows. 95 to 97% of everything that we've ever taken in through all of our senses from the time we were in utero is stored in the subconscious. That big hulking thing under the water is what's moving that little top part around, not the other way around, right?
Right.
So when we're only talking about stuff, when we're only using the cognitive mind, when we're only using our intellect, we're literally just rearranging the 3 to 5% of stuff that we know. Yeah, there you go. Look at you.
I was wanting everybody to see it because I want them to go listen to your TED Talk. It was honestly, it's 15 minutes and you gave so much information. There's the link again.
And it's deliver.
Guys, trust me, gonna change your life. 10 minutes or more in a day, and you're gonna be your best you. But the truth is, that's true. Yeah. It really is. You're not telling anybody anything that's like gonna change. They need to understand it's for them.
You can have aha moments. You can reframe things. You can come up with affirmations. You can try to forgive someone. You can practice different goal setting, like all of that can come from your intellectual mind.
Right.
But you cannot change the vibrational frequency and the old patterns that are stored in your subconscious mind that are really running you until you drop below the surface. And, when we look at, we're talking about the heart-brain coherence, and because you listened to it, you heard me bring in the words gratitude, appreciation, care, compassion, right? Every emotion is energy.
Right.
Emotion, energy in motion. It is just a frequency that runs through the body based on the chemistry that makes up that particular emotion. That's how we tell the difference between joy and sorrow, and gratitude and humiliation, right? Or whatever. So those words that we use in that heart-brain coherence are the higher vibrating emotions. They literally light up different parts of our brain. They start a different flow of chemistry. So depending on the preponderance of experiences in your life and how you as an individual person interpret them, and then create beliefs about yourself and the world and other people, most people's vibrational frequency sort of vibrates at a lower level: guilt, blame, shame, resentment, sadness, disappointment, powerlessness, depression, despair, right? Those are much heavier, much denser energies. And until you start working in the subconscious, you can't clear those energies out of your system to make room for more of the higher vibrating energies. As I say, you got to pump the what out of the septic tank in order.
Yes, though, you're 100%.
You get what? Yeah, you're picking up what I'm laying down here, Brandon.
You got to clean that up,
You literally have to discharge the heavy, dense, like concrete molasses. They move very slow through the body, so they don't get released and discharged. They just, especially because we push those feelings down, we don't want to feel them, and then they just get more and more and more and more compressed in our energy body, in our emotional body, and our whole life force energy is moving at this sort of very slow, heavy, dense way.
Yeah. And with that, the iceberg's a perfect one. But that's the thing. I think a lot of people, as an individual, for myself, I'll say this, diving into that cold is something a lot of people fear because they don't know how deep that iceberg's going to go.
Oh, absolutely. Scary as hell.
Yes. Like, it's one of those things. I remember the first day I showed up, I was beyond scared. Like, the hypnotherapy. Oh, what are you going to do? Go deep into my mind? Yeah, if you're willing. But it's you that's going to go into your mind, not me. And it was one of those.
It's not about controlling.
Right. I love that because you mentioned that on your website too, about how you're about making you help be the best you, in a sense. I'm not phrasing it right because I'm not cheating and looking at your website. But
for me, it's always been about empowering, which is why I work with a lot of tools and techniques that I can teach people to use on their own. It isn't like you have to come to me so that I can do this thing and then you can feel better. No, I want people to learn how to tap and do the heart-brain coherence and breathing exercises and put cold water on their face to activate their vagus nerve. And right? Like,
did you say vagus nerve? Is that the one that happens in Vegas but only stays there? We have to go there to get it?
VAGUS. Yeah, vagus nerve. It's a superhighway between the base of your skull and the base of your spine, and every nerve and organ in your body is connected to the vagus nerve.
So, okay, this is perfect. I love that Britt did this. That she says, I want to do hypnotherapy. That crap scares me. I like how she says she wants to do it and then calls it crap. I've been into scaring myself for a better part of the last 8 months. How does somebody dive into this? I have your website up there. They can send you an email and sign up to have a conversation. But how do they know to take that initial dive into their iceberg?
My belief is we feel that calling when our higher self is saying, okay, you're ready. Come on, it's time. For some people, we hear in the addiction world when, somebody has to hit bottom or whatever. So, I worked with a client for more than a couple of years whose body had completely just collapsed on her. She couldn't walk anymore. She had tremors. And she had grown up with so much abuse. I don't even know how she survived, honest to God. I don't know. But her body finally collapsed under the weight of it. And while we were working together, the tremors stopped. She regained her ability to walk. She was able to actually drive her car again and got a part-time job. But her body, at a certain point, and when she reached out to me, she basically said, I was drawn to your website and I know basically that you're the person I have to work with because I don't. So my point is, sometimes your body, your life just isn't working for you anymore, right? Your body hurts, your relationships suck, you hate your job, you're over medicating, self-medicating yourself, right? And you just say, I can't do this anymore. This is not the life I want for myself. Or your anxiety is so high that you can't stand the way you feel in your own body.
Yes.
And for other people, it might be a voice or somebody might share something with them that sparks an awakening for them. They listen to a podcast and something wakes up, right? And they say, okay, yeah, podcast. Right. And so there's different ways that we start to awaken to this call to step into our higher selves. Just like I felt the call to go into therapy when I never planned to do that.
Yeah, you said you were going to school for social work, so you have a caring heart.
Well, it is social work. The LCSW is licensed clinical social worker.
Okay.
But within the field of social work, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So I was on more in the path of sort of community. I was doing sexual assault work and domestic violence and child abuse and community organizing. Like I was much more social and political action. I was much more an activist. I had no interest in sitting in an office and letting someone contemplate their belly button.
It's the belly button.
That was not my thing.
You have this amazing energy about you. Now, I know you and I had fun in the back talking about it. How nervous were you going in front and doing a TED Talk and knowing that you're going to be put on a stage technology, education. Oh my gosh, I blanked out on the D. Design?
I don't know if I've ever knew what the D was. Development, maybe?
You know what? We're going to do that. We're going to do technology. I should have. Usually do remember it, but like right on the spot, I froze. But like you're going up there.
As you can tell, I love to talk, right? So they didn't call me Chatty Cathy for nothing when I was growing up. Like, I come from a long line of Irish storytellers, so and I had been speaking and doing workshops. Like I said, I had my own healing center. I did a lot of workshops. I teach other social workers, therapists to do what I do. But getting on a TED stage is sort of intimidating.
Yeah.
But you spend a lot of time preparing, and I know my material inside out. My problem is I overshare. Like I want to fit everything I've learned in 30 years into 15 minutes. Right. So, But I did my TED Talk in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And I tell you, we had the most wonderful team of people to work with. They were awesome. We all arrived a day early. We had time to get up on stage and practice in the room that we were going to be speaking in. And that helps, of course, because you sort of get to see where the timer is and what the technology is like and how the lighting's going to be. And you just get a little familiarity with the stage. And I had the good fortune of, I go to Unity Church here in Greater Hartford, and they allowed me to go in and practice there a few times. So I had a practice audience, and people gave me feedback, and I tightened some things up, and I expanded other things. And so I had some opportunity to share my stuff, in front of a group of maybe 15 or 20 people.
Yeah.
So all of that was super helpful. And then, like I said, the people in Fredericksburg were awesome. And I'm so familiar with my material. It was just trying to get it all in an order. And actually what happened to me was I left out a whole part. And then I went, oh, dang, I forgot that part. And I was just able to roll it back in. And people said they couldn't tell. There was no hesitation. Thank you, God. Yeah.
That is, oh, I love that. Like, so you have people that are watching right now that I'm going to go watch it. You're hitting it. We even have people teach us what it is: technology, entertainment, design. So I wonder what the X stands for, just so you and I can have fun with that.
Well, TEDx, the TED organization, when it started, was really for very large audiences and very big names, sort of. And then communities wanted to be able to hold these events. So the TEDx's are sort of the smaller community-based experiences. They're still under the umbrella of the TED organization, and they have to operate by all of the rules and the regulations of TED. Like, for example, because my talk was a little alternative and I made some suggestions, after my talk, the TED organization held it up for 2 months in review before they approved it to go live.
Really? I saw there was a thing on there.
Huh?
Yeah, I saw there was a disclaimer. I wanted to ask you off air about that, but like, you're mentioning it. Is that because it's not the views of how everything else, like how they want everything to go? It's saying, hey, this might not. It's the legal. Basically.
Because they didn't want people take it as medical advice or whatever. So, but that was a little like, oh man, I did all of that, and now they might not let it be put out into the world. So I prayed a lot. I asked a lot of people to just hold it up in the light and see it done. And 2 months later, it was done.
That is awesome. So do you want to laugh? So remember how you and I were talking beforehand about stuff? The person you mentioned is texting me. And I said, you need to tune into my show. Like, I'm like trying to talk to, listen to you. And I saw him text. I'm like, oh, I got to tell him. And he goes, she got her TED Talk on April 25th, 2019. I'll never be able to forget you because April 25th is my birthday. I knew you'd like that. He sent it to me.
You just can't make this stuff up.
This was like, honestly, like I was like, I sent him, because he sent me a text saying, hey, I'm so excited you're a part of what we're going to be doing next and blah, blah, blah. But it was like, I'm reading that and I just laughed. Like I had to say something to you because I sent him your YouTube video because I sent it here. And he goes, oh, I remember her right away. Like right away he was into it. So please know, I am loving this. Like talk about a small world.
We talked about in the beginning how I love doing these shows when I don't really know the host and we just go on and we freewheel it. And we don't have questions because we always find these points of connection and intersection. And I just think it's such a beautiful, simple, but very beautiful way of saying we really are all connected. And even though, we might walk down the street and not even look at each other or think we'd have anything in common. And yet, there are these places of intersection and similarity and, where we really are all one.
I have to be honest, that made me smile in such a unique way. It shows how the universe has things that are planned. And I tell people, one of my things is I try to find ways to find positivity in every single day. So I have my own number, 425, which is my birthday. So whenever I see those together, 425,
yeah.
I have to stop whatever I'm doing in that moment and give a moment of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents, I've told about this, and they make jokes. They're like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And then we're at the grocery store, and all they can see is 425 everywhere. And I'm like, "Told you." It's one of
That's
those.
That's how the universe works,
right? And then I'm getting this, and this was so we're near. He just goes he wrote me right now and goes, "There's no freaking way the universe is aligned this like this." And I go, "Right?" Like,
he was a cooperative component because he came on just in time to share that information. Could all go, holy
right? Right? Like, this just blew my mind. All right, so we're coming to the end of the interview. I've got your website up here. I've put your YouTube link. I even have him watching your YouTube link. And I'm sure he knows about it. But I want you to know that we end every show with this positive affirmation. Don't worry, I'll show you how we do it. I'll go first. And you just speak positivity to the audience, and then you're going to go after me and do the exact same thing and say whatever's on your heart. It could be, guys, go out there and just hug a stranger. Maybe not with COVID, but you get where I'm going. So I'll show you how it is, but like, I want you to know how amazing this is. This interview was. My book is the top 50 podcasts I've done because I've done so many of them. And I have to be honest, you're going to be on one of these because this connected in so many ways.
Yeah.
And you opened my heart. And the one thing you hit me with that I'm never going to forget is ego voice and heart voice. So please, like, that was incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, you like, that hit me in a way that's like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Like, thank you. If I didn't learn anything else today, you brought me that, and I am grateful for that. So, guys, now you get to see how I do this. Ready? This is where we have some fun with everybody. All right, here we go.
Leaning in.
I'll just keep. Hold on. Let me do this then. I'll make it equal size. That way,
let me see more of you. Okay.
Hi. How you doing? So, guys, this has been an incredible episode. This is one where you just watched how small the universe is and saw connections happen. And even if you think, oh, that's just luck or whatever, know that you can see how the universe connected it live on air. I can't make this up. And I'm blessed because you guys show up, and then I have someone like Miss Ewing over here, literally looking at everything going, let me help people just like we like to do. So guys, today is your day. Take a moment, take a seat, breathe in 5, breathe out 5, and take the moment to give yourself 3 minutes so you can have that 6 hours of benefits, and shut the ego voice up to let the heart voice in. That's all her knowledge. I'm just changing it to the way I say it.
And I just stole it from some other people.
That's how this world works. I love it.
Exactly.
So tell us your goodbye for today and inspire everybody for us.
So I just have to say, this was so much fun. The energy, your curiosity, it's just wonderful. It's so wonderful. And of course the synchronicities, right? Because there are no coincidences. Everything is in synchronicity.
Right.
And the more we tune in to that more authentic heart voice, soul voice, authentic voice, higher self, whatever languaging you want to use, you become more tied in to the synchronicities of the universe. And you become a cooperative component, as Abraham Hicks says, to all of these events. You all of a sudden you find you're in the right place at the right time, talking to the right person, or somebody comes in and enters the conversation. And so many of those experiences that I can't even begin to tell you, but I'm going to do something a little unusual because it just wants to come through. And so, not to freak anybody out, that's a little bit of light language. And when it wants to come, it just...
Thank you. You got to let it out. I've heard of speaking in tongues when I was a pastor, so let it out.
Yeah. There's no literal translation. I just know that the universe was inviting an activation for someone or for everyone who was here. So whatever that, little bit of light language was, don't get too caught up in it. It's just a vibration. It's information coming through in a different form. And I'm so happy to be here. And thank your audience. I can see the comments coming up. And I'm, just so grateful for their interest, their curiosity, their integrity, their honesty. You're welcome, Donna Fernando. Thank you. So thank you all so much. It was such a blessing to be here with all of you.
I don't have anything else I can add. You are amazing. Guys, go watch the TED Talk. Get out there and make sure you're spreading that positivity light, because good gosh, can this world need it.
And one other thing I will say, Brandon, I do have that heart-brain coherence in a longer YouTube video. It's 16 minutes. Where it teaches you how to do it, but also explains the science of it.
Is it on you? Do you have your own YouTube channel? Because I typed you in as the TEDx talk, and I wanted to make sure.
I do have my channel. I don't know. I can never figure out what the actual.
I got you. I'll find you.
I could send you a link.
Please, and I will make sure to share it in the community for everybody, because people want to love themselves. And
I'll send you a couple of links to some free things that I have, meditations and whatever you do whatever you.
Thank you so much. That is incredible. And I'm going to be emailing you the copy of this with the links and everything as well. Please, let's connect again. And if not, as soon as the TEDx stuff starts coming around. Now, do you see they're all going on about tacos? Now I'm hungry. Like, you see that? Like, I love you guys. Now I'm hungry. I
have a wonderful Halloween. I'm going to be down in Asheville visiting my son and his girlfriend over Halloween. So,
are you dressing up?
I don't know.
Do you want to see my costume really quick?
Oh, well.
All right. So my niece and I are going out as, she is Princess Vampire. Okay. Which was unique. I didn't know that was a thing, but I have to be a prince vampire. And I'm like, okay, but we have to go to my brother-in-law's sister's house for a party, and we have to be wrestling characters. So I bought myself some underwear, and I'm tie-dyeing it.
Do I really want to see this?
No, don't worry. I'm going to leave clothes on. You're going to like this, all right? So I bought myself some underwear that I'm going to tie-dye, and then I'm going to put knee pads on like a wrestler, right? Like, look all dorky. But I have this to come off of me, which is a Ninja Turtle bathrobe. And that way the green goes with the green. Yeah. And I'm going to rip this off and be able to be like, roar, and all that, and then be in just those underwear and all that. My mom is already super excited for this. She's like, you are going to make us laugh so hard. I'm like, okay, good. That's what I try to do. I just want to make you laugh and have a good time. And I can be a big old dork, and that's what I like.
I love the Ninja Turtle bathrobe.
Thank you. Well, I also have the onesie, just in case you were worried. I got to make sure that I'm ready.
I was a little concerned, so thank you for putting that ease now.
Absolutely. I had to make sure I took that ease away, that fear away. So, guys, go watch the YouTube video.
This is like one of my long family goodbyes. We say goodbye about 10 times.
And then you're hugging and like all that stuff. I'm like,
here for all of you.
You want to get a drink now? Let's go. Come on. Guys, have a good one. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
It's been great.
Thank you.